Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of the KeenGamer podcast. Hopefully, all of you ghosts and ghouls are having a good time. This is our Halloween episode, so we're looking forward to talking about some scary games that we want to recommend to you all at the end. First of all, let me introduce the panel I have this week. It's a fantastic panel. Once again, I'm joined by Marc. How's it going, Marc?
Hey guys, I'm good. Happy to be here again.
Of course. And for the first time on the podcast, we have Jessica. Jessica, how are you?
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Excited to talk about horror games.
Absolutely. So we have a good show for you guys. We're going to be going through the games we're playing, which will be actually, I won't spoil those. Let's wait, and then you'll find out when we get there. After games we're playing, we'll be talking about the biggest news stories of the week. And like I just said, we're going to cap off the show with our recommendations for our favorite games to play for Halloween. So I think the first game we need to talk about is probably the biggest release of the week, Guardians of the Galaxy. I was talking to Jessica before the show started, and I found out that she has beat the game not once, but twice. Jessica,
Twice.
What do you
Wow.
what do you think? Yeah, what do you think about this game?
I kind of like it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's actually, I didn't expect it to be my favorite game this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just went into it with kind of like okay expectations, but it was just so good. Even the combat, which I guess can be a little easy, as people have been saying, but I just think it's fun. You combine that with Guardians music and all, and it just flows really well.
Yeah, it feels like you're playing one of the James Gunn movies. I played the first couple of hours last night, and from the soundtrack to the humor to even like the way that the characters interact with each other, they really seemed to capture the spirit of those movies in a really fun way.
Yeah, they seem to just like charm, I guess would be the word. Like it's not, it doesn't seem forced or anything. Like I guess.
Yeah, you said that you were surprised this was your number one game of the year. I feel like they dropped 2 trailers for this game over the last 4 months, and then the game came out, and all of a sudden it had really solid reviews. Do you feel like the trailers threw you off about what the game was going to be like, or do you feel like this is a game that was always potentially going to be a number one for you?
Well, I'm a big Marvel fan, so I was just going to play it either way. But I just don't think the trailers could probably get, like, playing it twice as well. The story, like, for so it gets better and better as it goes on. And every time I was playing every chapter, I was like, oh, I couldn't get any better than this. And then it throws another reference or something in, and it just so I guess that stuff you couldn't really put in the trailer.
Yeah, speaking of references, I played the first 2 hours last night, and the game starts off and you are on Earth as Peter Quill in his little like childhood room. And I spent probably 15 minutes of the game just walking around that room looking at all the nostalgia. He has a little ColecoVision in the corner with a bunch of cartridges and games on it. He's got posters for bands from the 80s. He's got a Rolling Stone magazine that you can read through. The amount of detail in the game is throwing me off and really kind of capturing me into this world.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's just really good world building going on with it.
Well, I'm also quite a big Marvel fan, but I haven't really looked into Guardians. So what surprises me is Jessica saying that it's already your top game of the year. You know, the year's still got a few months left of it, so it must be really good. So maybe I'll have a look at it.
Yeah, and like to kind of explain it. Yeah, to explain it real quick, Guardians of the Galaxy is a third-person action-adventure game, and when I first saw the trailer, I thought you're going to be hopping between different characters as you play, but what I've learned is that you're only playing a Star-Lord throughout the game, and then you're kind of telling your teammates to do moves passively through a command menu. Would you have preferred the game if you could play as more than just Star-Lord, or do you like the narrative idea of you only play as the one character?
I like the way they did it because it was quite easy. I think it's actually probably one of the most accessible games I've ever played, that someone could literally just pick up a controller, change it to the accessibility settings they want, and they could do the combat no problem. I think I like it. It's fun. Just having Star-Lord and then having the simplicity of calling out a command, I think maybe it might have got a bit too complicated with all of the Guardians there.
Yeah. The one moment that happened to me last night while I was playing that I had the biggest, dumbest smile on my face while it was happening. I learned what a team huddle is. That what the move is called?
Yeah.
So, Marc, in the game, when you're fighting a big boss, sometimes your team will start to get down on their luck, or they might get unmotivated to fight. So as Starlord, you have a power to raise your Walkman or your Discman, the Walkman.
Okay.
And your team runs towards you, and then you play quarterback. So I did one, and my teammates, like Gamora, was like, "Why is he laughing at us? He makes me feel really bad." And then Drax was like, "I'm scared. This is going to be too tough." And then it's up to you. You get a bunch of dialogue options. It'll be up to you to say the right thing to motivate them. And then if you say the correct thing, say Bad Reputation by Joan Jett will start playing, and then your team will start just kicking the boss's ass.
So fun.
Wow, that's quite different. I've never known a game to do something like that.
It was like I was playing. It turned into Maiden. Like I was like, "What's going on here? It's the wrong game."
Interesting mechanic to kind of bring into this kind of game. I'm watching a bit of the gameplay trailer here, and it does look quite fun.
Yeah, because the Guardians have always been about teamwork. Like they were one of the first teams in the Marvel Cinematic Universe before, like I guess post Avengers, we saw Guardians. But I feel like the game is really emphasizing the teamwork part of the gameplay, despite you only playing as one character, as well as just like the camaraderie of the team. Like I said before, the humor and the dynamics of the characters in the movie is exactly what you're getting here in the game. There's also some new characters as well. I met a character named Nikki Gold last night, and within 5 minutes, I was like, "This may be one of the best characters in games this year as well."
I'm sure I'll hear about her somewhere along the line.
Yeah, and I think one last thing I have about the game itself is that it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I think that's really helping the game out. After playing a game like Kana, where I felt like it took itself a little bit too seriously at times, having Guardians be jovial and funny and have this like quarterback session during a boss fight section has really impressed me.
I agree, but later on as well, like obviously I won't spoil anything, but it balances that humor and charm with actually some good heartfelt story stuff. And again, I wasn't expecting that. And I think that's why I like it so much. Just wasn't expecting it to be.
Okay, no, was that the game you were talking about last week?
Yeah, I'll go back into that in a second. But even like both the Guardians movies have been really funny, but they've also had those tender moments as well. Even I'm going to spoil the first Guardians movie from 10 years ago. I apologize. But when they're all falling to the ground from space and Groot creates like a giant fort to keep them all safe, and there's these like fireflies flying inside of it, like it's a very sentimental and heartwarming moment. And I'm sure the Guardians game will also have some of those waiting for me as well. Last question, Jessica, how long about do you think the campaign is to beat?
Well, I was looking for some collectibles, but I was playing it, and I think my first playthrough was about 24 hours. I was surprised by how long it was, actually. But
oh, wow.
I think it was because there wasn't too many side options you could do. No side quests or anything, so they just went full on in the campaign. And then the second time, it took me about half that, I'd say.
Yeah. I keep saying one last thing, but I only played this game for 2 hours, but it left a good impression on me. When I play games, I feel like Jessica, I like going to every single corner of every room and looking for items to find. And whatever companion character you're hanging out with while you play will always make a comment about you doing it.
I love that.
It is so funny. They're like, "Hey, dude, what are you doing over there? There's nothing over there." Or like they'll say, "Hey, man, don't go down there. It's a dead end." And then, of course, you have to go down there to look for gold and stuff. And they're like, "I just told you, it's a dead end." So it's surprising me. It's really working for me. And I'll play some more of it.
Breaking the
sure. Oh, yeah. Like it breaks the fourth wall. And it's like, it feels like it's aware it's a game in like the best ways. It's really good. Jessica, any final thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy?
Just play it.
Just play it. Yeah. I could see it coming up in like my top 5, top 10 games of the year. I don't know just yet. I'm only 2 hours into a maybe 20-hour games, so we'll see. Mark, you have been playing the newest Fatal Frame. In fact, I believe your review for it just went online on KeenGamer last night. What are your thoughts on the game?
Well, I had a great time with Fatal Frame. It's a great title for you to pick up if you're looking for something scary to play this Halloween. It's filled with ghosts, and it's got a unique and interesting premise where you essentially fight and capture ghosts using your. It's called the camera obscura. Yeah, it's quite scary.
And this is
it's not often.
This is not a new Fatal Frame. This is a remake of an older one, correct?
Well, yes, it's the newest Fatal Frame, but unfortunately, it was released on the Wii U back in 2016. It got, mixed to good reviews from depending who you ask. And yeah, I'm glad they've now come back to it and remastered it. Excuse me.
It's a remaster.
Because it is, it's not a remake. It's more of a remaster where they've updated some textures.
Okay.
They've made it, look good. But yeah, it still suffers from some of the problems that it had before. The controls can be a bit tanky, like old school Resident Evil titles, things like that. If you remember back, like PlayStation 2 days, it's almost got like 1 foot back in that generation still.
Is it one of those like scary games that has a run button, but your running is only like 0.5% faster than your walking speed? Like those kind of tank controls?
I wouldn't say it's that bad. It's your run is
in the
like
walls?
the walls is the problem. Turning around and like maneuvering your character, especially when you're in a narrow corridor, being chased by all sorts of ghosts, it's quite difficult. But I don't think that takes too much away from the game itself. Is the narrative and the story around this mountain, Mount Ikami, that you are kind of drawn to in the game, and it's the center of the game essentially, and it's got very interesting lore and it's a real experience. And I mean, if you're a horror fan and you've enjoyed any of the older Fates of Frame games, definitely pick it up.
Is it like a jump scare fest? Is it like more of like a slow burn towards a scare?
That's the thing about it, is it gives you a bit best of both worlds. It does have a few really good jump scares. They didn't feel cheap or anything, and it will have you jumping out of your skin at times. But sometimes it is a real slow burn, and you're just exploring this insanely creepy environment or shrine or whatever it is, just waiting for the next ghost to jump out at you. And sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does, and there's just some really scary ghosts to encounter and learn about. One interesting mechanic that I would like to talk about is it's called Fatal Glance, where once you defeat the ghost while it's kind of dying, is you can walk up to it and touch it, and it'll sort of play a flashback to show you this poor ghost's really grisly story, how it became a ghost. And yeah, it's some of the things you'll see in that game are quite gruesome and terrifying. So yeah, not for the faint of heart.
This remaster, is it only for Switch, or did they remaster it for other consoles as well?
Oh, that's a good point you bring up. It's available on PlayStation, Xbox, PC. It's opened it up. So I think it'll do well. And hopefully it will pave the way for a new Fatal Frame game, hopefully with better controls.
I assumed it was coming to other consoles because I know the original Wii version of this game had Nintendo skins in it. Like you could play the entire game dressed up as Zero Suit Samus, or even like Princess Daisy, I believe.
It did, and of course those skins aren't in the cross-platform version that we have now. So hard luck. But they didn't really add much to the game, and their loss doesn't really take too much away from it either. So.
Is it a full price remaster, or do you know if it's going for a bit less?
To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I did get a review copy of it, so I don't think it's.
Yeah, most remasters usually come about like $20-$30 cheaper sometimes than the full priced games. So,
how long is it, Mark? Is it a long game?
I think it'll take you about 14 hours to get through the campaign, so it's decent.
Yeah.
Is there like multiple endings, or is it just like a pretty linear adventure you're going on? A scary adventure.
It does have multiple endings, depending on there are choices you can make throughout the campaign. So they are variety of endings you can choose, but it is chapter based. So I think once you unlock a chapter, you can just go back and replay it and
Very cool. What was your?
make a different choice.
Do you want to ruin your score, or do you want to incentivize people to go read the review?
Well, I'll ruin my score. I mean, I gave it a solid 7. It's far from perfect, but I think the world building was just incredible. I really enjoyed it for that, mostly. The characters did kind of feel flat in some ways, but they, to me, weren't really the main attraction. And like I said in my review, it's more about the mountain and all the culture and history about the mountain than the characters.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really had a good time with it.
Something about Eastern influenced horror is always the most fascinating to me. Like, especially like the idea of going up an icy mountain and finding horror there. That sounds really cool. And there actually aren't that many like scary games coming out this year around Halloween. So I'm sure a lot of people will buy it and pick it up for the next few days. So the next thing I want to go into, I just want to I beat Kena, Bridge of Spirits, a couple of days ago. And I still think that game is really, really good. It looks fantastic. The music is beautiful. I beat it in about 9 hours, and I wish there was maybe like 3 hours longer because, well, the story was really good. It kind of started throwing a lot of information in the last couple hours of dialogue that I didn't really have enough time to process. And then the next thing I knew, the credits were rolling.
Rushed.
Yeah, it was a bit rushed, and it feels like it was good. And it's nothing too crazy. It's just I don't know enough about the character and how she got to where she was at the beginning of the game. Like the first hour or first half an hour of Kena is you play as her and you walk into this village and something's going wrong, and the whole game is you trying to solve the corruption behind this village and why everyone's missing from it. But you have no context about what she was doing 20 minutes before she walked into this forest. What was her adventure? Yeah, what was her story? Who are her friends? Who are her family? So I wish that there was a bit more narrative story there. I also wish the game was a bit funnier, which is not something I say about a lot of games.
You did say you wished it didn't take itself so seriously at times.
Yeah. Because Kena is emulating what I feel good comparing to like Araya and the Last Dragon, or even Maya and the Three just came out, and that kind of reminds me of it. A lot of those kids' movies have more humor in them in general, where Kena presents itself as a kids' movie, but it takes itself very, very seriously throughout. I also want to say the last boss fight took me about 2.5 hours and maybe about 15 deaths.
12-hour game. 2 of that was
me dying.
Boss.
Yeah. I saw Mark last week.
Right at the end.
I was telling Mark that it was very Dark Soulsy, some of the bosses in this game. And
you did say you died a lot.
Also similar to Dark Souls, you have limited healing items during a boss fight. So you can only heal for the last boss. I could only heal twice. And even when I did heal, it was about 30 to 40% of my health bar. So you got to be in the right mindset. You have to memorize every attack pattern, every like wind up and what that could mean for what he's about to do. And there is one run.
What I thought Kena was going to be like.
No.
Because I was going to buy it, and I thought, because there's just too many games coming out, I thought it would be like you said, like a cutesy Disney type thing, not a cute Dark Souls game.
More fun, kind of platforming action experience.
Yeah,
I think Dark Souls, but cuter, is a very good way of describing this game. There's like less death and stuff, though. There's still death and stuff in there, but I really enjoyed it. I have a few things that didn't sit well with me near the end, but overall I thought it was a satisfying journey. I think just experiencing, I'd say if anybody ever wanted to watch like the story cutscenes on YouTube, I'd recommend it because it plays well as a short film that you're kind of playing along with.
I suppose it would benefit from less frustrating boss fights. Maybe.
Yeah, and you know what? There is a difficulty setting that you can change at any time, and I refuse to change it to the easier setting. So
I do that. You got that far. Yeah.
As well.
If I made it to the last boss on the medium difficulty, I should be able to beat the last boss. But so there are difficulty settings you can change. I think the easiest is storyteller mode, where it's for people who are just there for the story, and then the mode I was playing was like story player kind of thing, where you're more in the story, you're more interactive with everything. Kana, really good. It will probably not crack my top 5 of the year, maybe top 10, but I enjoyed it overall. And then Jessica, you're also playing a game that I believe is called Visage.
I believe it's called that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because it's coming up to Halloween. I thought I'd play a new game. It was on Game Pass, and it is heavily inspired by PT. So a lot
that's
of
always good.
yeah, a lot of creepy going down corridors, and I actually played it in the daylight, but I did put my headphones on, and it scared the crap out of me. It is so good at doing both jump scares and just like really creepy sounds. Like the whole setup is you kind of don't know what's going on at the beginning. You're in this creepy house, you're going through a door, phones ringing, all these strange noises, and then over time, like PT things start happening, like weird sounds, the lights going off, you see someone down a corridor. But the way they set it up, like little horror set pieces, I guess. Like I just walked into a laundry room and suddenly there was a naked woman on a bunch of blood. Like,
Wow.
okay, I'll just close that door and go somewhere else.
So it's more of a
Occupied.
slow burn than.
Yeah, and then occasionally the lights will go out and you're like, oh my god, you need to have a candle lit so your sanity goes down. I've only played, I haven't actually even completed a chapter. It's you find items and you go into a chapter to try and explore someone's story.
Okay.
But the other thing about it is that it warns you at the beginning as well. It's a very difficult puzzle game, which I usually like, but I have not been able to solve like one of the big puzzles in it. So
Oh, wow.
I feel like it would be quite a long game.
Okay, so you're still busy with it, and yeah, that sounds very interesting to me. I love that kind of slow burn and especially puzzle-oriented gameplay.
I did like it, and I love puzzles as well, but these ones just seem, at least where I am now, very difficult.
I'm looking at the images right now, and this game looks like terrifying.
It does. It does. It looks great.
Yeah.
It also looks like really high quality. Like I'm looking at a photo of like the living room or whatever, and the textures look really good. Like it looks like a good looking game.
Yeah, it holds up well to like games like PT and like not quite on level of like Resident Evil and that. But I also forgot to say as well, it's getting an update on Series X. It was just announced today, which I saw. It's getting a 60 frames per second 4K mode.
Oh wow!
And faster load times as well. So it was a good time to pick it up if anybody wanted a terrifying experience.
And you said that was on Game Pass, right?
Yeah, Game Pass.
Oh, I love Game Pass. But you mentioned a sanity mechanic, so I just wanted to ask, how does that work? How does that affect the game?
So if you're in the dark for too long, your sanity meter will go up, and if it's like this little symbol at the bottom left-hand corner, it's a brain going redder, and if your sanity level gets too high, paranormal events will start to happen. So it gets scarier when your sanity meter drops, but you can take pills that you find to lower your sanity. And it's also got, survival horror mechanics to it. So you have to try and balance your light source and your pills whenever things are going creepy.
That takes me a little bit back to Fatal Frame. It also has a similar mechanic. It's called wetness, which is, the more there's a lot of water and stuff on the mountain that I was talking about, and the more wet your character is, the more vulnerable you are to attacks, the more likely you are to encounter ghosts and things like that as well. So
yeah,
interesting.
It's a mechanic I quite liked. So Visage sounds really cool. I'd like to pick that up.
Do you naturally dry off as you walk, or do you have to like find a towel?
You do. There is a item as well. It's called Purifying Embers that you can use to dry yourself off. And if once you reach like the maximum level of wetness, it starts to damage you over time. So that's quite bad.
That's interesting.
Anyway,
yeah. Was there any other thoughts on Visage you wanted to throw out there? That looks like a game that I will probably never play. It looks like it might be too much for me.
It is very scary, but maybe not even a playthrough would be scary if you watch someone. Although sometimes the tension is let down a little bit whenever you're stuck in a room I think I was stuck in a room for an hour trying to solve a puzzle.
Yeah. Are there like are Are there like safe rooms like Resident Evil where you are safe in certain areas of the house, but
I've not came across. Yeah. Yeah.
always in danger?
Yeah, always in danger.
All right. Well, those are the games that we have been playing this week. We started with Guardians of the Galaxy. We talked about Fatal Frame, Maiden of the Blackwater, Kena Bridge of Spirits, and some Visage at the very end there. We are now going to segue into the news. And I think that we're going to just kind of get the bad news out of the way first and then escalate to something more cheery to talk about. Because our first couple of news items revolve around Blizzard and Activision, which is something I haven't talked about too much in the podcast because it's not great stuff to talk about. But there is some pretty important stuff happening right now around the company. I want to start with just the first thing that happened this week, which was in the game Overwatch. One of the original characters has been named McCree. That character was named after a problematic developer at Blizzard who has recently left the company, as he was one of the people who was in the infamous Crosby suite. Overwatch has decided to change that character's name from McCree to Cole Cassidy. And I think it's worth mentioning they're not just doing it as like a patch and ignoring it. They're making it like a story event that McCree is losing his name as the cowboy. He's kind of evolving as a human being and going back to Cole Cassidy. I don't really have like any opinions on this. I think it's a good step forward. I don't know if it's the best step that Blizzard could take right now.
I think it's
I don't know. What do you guys think?
They needed a story event. I didn't know that actually. I thought it was just a straight up name change and costume change. Yeah,
they're making it like a character event where like the character has decided to scrap the name McCree and now he's becoming Cole Cassidy. It was a pretty big patch because they had to get all the voice actors to come back. Any line they had that said McCree, they now have to say Cole. And there's a lot of voice actors, a lot of characters in that game. So it's taking them a lot of work to do this one small thing. I don't hate the name Cole Cassidy. It'll take some getting used to, but what do you think, Mark?
Well, of course, they would want to distance themselves from an event or story like that. So I think it is possibly the best way they could deal with it, rather than having that sort of specter hanging over them. But then again, they could have just patched it in, changed everything, and not really said anything about it. So probably having a story to it and something like that, is
I believe
the best way forward.
Because Overwatch has dropped like those Pixar-like animated stories for their character introductions. I believe they're working on a new one of those to help with the reveal of Cole Cassidy over McCree. So they're really going all in on marketing this thing as well as like trying to make it canonical in the story as well. That was kind of the smaller of the two stories we had for Blizzard. The other one is that just a few days ago, they have decided to cancel BlizzCon 2022, which I think is probably the better idea that they've had recently.
Yeah.
This company has been in hot water for a long time, and I feel like throwing a celebration of Blizzard would be not the right image or the right message to send to people right now.
I definitely think that keeping a low profile for them is the best thing they can do. Just buckle down and work on their games, and hopefully they'll be good when they eventually come out.
It's one thing as well because a lot of people have left Blizzard recently. Like almost every week, I feel like I read about another, head of legal department or their HR team leaving the company. So I feel like they're a little understaffed right now, and I feel like what they probably need to do is just focus on the games and making those games as good as they can be.
Yeah, the two biggest ones they've announced, but haven't got a date for anything. I think it's Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2. And Diablo 4 recently just got a new director, I believe.
Because
really?
the previous director for Diablo 4 was the aforementioned McCree guy.
Oh, was it him? Okay. Right.
Oh,
okay.
Wow. And there is that... Oh, sorry.
I just agree with Kyle that as well as keeping a low profile and trying to stay out of the news for bad things and not celebrating them, that they should probably, like you said, Mark, focus on their games and getting their structure together, especially if they, like you said, Kyle got so many new people working on them.
Like
no more.
Jessica was saying as well, the only 2 games they have announced right now are Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4. I don't really know if you can have a big BlizzCon around 2 games.
No, I was going to say, didn't they also recently release a patch for or a major update for World of Warcraft? Or am I really missing that buzz?
They might have. I'm not on the World of Warcraft message boards very often. I'm out of loop on the what's going on there. I feel like every couple days I sign into my news sites and I see X happened at Blizzard shredded documents,
Yeah.
It's just been a bad year, and I think that the best thing they could do is stay out of the spotlight, regroup, reassemble, appease your employees' demands, and then maybe go from there.
Definitely.
So that's it for Blizzard. Get out of here, Blizzard. We don't want to talk about you anymore.
No.
Let's talk about something fun, like Halo Infinite's new campaign trailer.
Woo.
So I'm gonna let you guys take the lead. I'm the guy who's never had an Xbox. I went to a friend's house to play Halo multiplayer. I've played maybe the first hour of Halo 2's campaign, but that's about it for me. So what you guys think about the new campaign trailer?
Well, from what I've
yeah,
seen of it, it looks quite exciting. I'm just excited for a cool new Halo game. But yeah, what do you think, Jess?
Yeah, I
Jessica?
agree. I kind of dropped off Halo with the 343 games. Halo 3 was, I logged back into my account with them, and I realized that I played over 1,000 hours of Halo 3, and I didn't even realize.
Wow.
I loved it so much, and then kind of fell off it a little bit, and then just everything about this campaign trailer has made me so excited to go back into it, especially the hijacking a Banshee from another Banshee. That's so cool.
Yeah, like I was saying, as somebody who is usually outside of the Halo circle, when I watched this trailer, I was like, oh shit, this looks like Halo.
Yeah.
In a way that I feel like when I watched the Halo 5 trailer and stuff, I was like, oh, this looks like something different, but this feels like old school Halo in the best way possible.
Roots. Well, yeah, Halo, something I really loved about it was just the online play, really. The campaigns were great always, full of action and interesting stories. And I think my best one, I don't know about you guys, but my favorite was Halo Reach.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. And yeah, the multiplayer, one of my favorite games was the Griffball, where you just had like minimal weapons and it was almost like basketball in a way. I just loved playing that game.
I don't think I ever played that one, actually. Was that in Reach?
I loved it. You just go and smash people. I think it was on most of the Halo multiplayers, but it was fun.
It sounds fun. I did like all the weird playlists they had. Like I used to do Oddball all the time on Halo 3, and you're like you said, just strange stuff. You'd be in a match with, you could only use shotguns or snipers at one point, and then if there's a skull for one of them, you bash them with skulls.
Halo was great.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Like Jessica was saying, one of the things that stands out in this trailer is the use of the grappling hook. Like that looks like a lot of fun to use. This is the first time Halo has used like a grappling hook feature, right?
That I know of.
Yeah. I feel like grappling hooks are everywhere now with Battlefield, Far Cry. Like I feel like every game is incorporating the grapple hook.
I think even Doom Eternal had that grappling hook kind of.
It's like that year where everybody had a bow in their game. Now everyone's got a grappling hook.
Yeah.
It's the new thing.
Yep. 2 years from now, it's going to be like a javelin. For some reason, javelins are big.
Yeah, I'm happy that it is a grapple hook. Big grapple hook fan since Zelda Ocarina of Time days. So
absolutely, and like you were saying, and I don't know what they're called. What are the flying ships called in Halo?
I think it's Banshee.
The Banshee.
There's Banshees, and the ghosts are those little.
Yes, the wasps are the UNSC ones, whatever.
I just remember seeing that in the trailer when I watched it this morning, the Wasp. But like just seeing the footage of like Master Chief on the ground, shooting up into the sky, kicking somebody out of their vehicle, and then starting to ride it. Like that looks like it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, can't wait to replicate that.
They also talked about maybe how this is going to be the first Halo where you can take down missions in any order you want. Were previous Halo games, are they all fairly linear in terms of the campaign? Like one level 1, 2, level 1, 3.
Yeah, that you could go in and jump into them at any time as well, kind of like a chapter, like
Oh, really?
jump into this one and do legendary or co-op, and it would record your thing. So yeah, it looks very different. I'm excited for it though.
Yeah, I have to say, like, does that intrigue you, or do you prefer like more of a linear campaign, or would you rather be able to do whatever missions you want in whatever order?
I don't know about Mark, but I think maybe they need to do something a little different because, like I said, I fell off Halo 4 and 5. It just I never did play the multiplayer, so I can't judge it, but the campaigns just really didn't do it for me. It was the same stuff as before, whereas kind of incorporating more. Looks like it's got a little bit more RPG elements as well, with the upgrades and stuff.
Yeah.
It's intriguing me at the moment.
Yeah, and the best thing about it is that it will come out to Game Pass. So
Yeah.
for most people, we don't have to drop $90 for it. We'll be able to kind of just pick it up and play it when it comes out.
Gotta love
What about
Game
you, Mark?
Pass. I mean, well, yeah, it's. I don't know how I feel about the playing levels in whichever order you choose. I kind of like the linear vibe because it tells kind of a story as it goes. But yeah, we'll see how it goes, I think.
Yeah, I think if they do it right, it could be really well done. I just don't want Halo to start feeling like an Assassin's Creed or a Far Cry, where it's kind of bloated. It's like an open world that looks really pretty, but it's also bloated with kind of samey missions that you're doing over and over again. Exactly, filler content.
See people saying this online, and actually, I totally get where they're coming from. If people are talking about Far Cry being too bloated and samey, and then Halo's incorporating stuff from Ubisoft games, like I get why people will be a little bit reticent about it. Yeah.
Yeah. But that game is coming out very soon, I believe, or I believe they have a separate release for the multiplayer and the campaign.
I can't remember actually. I know campaign's coming out 5th of December.
Okay. Oh, that's soon.
I thought they were launching together though, but not sure.
Yeah, I think with
disappointing.
Yeah, with COVID and stuff, and I feel like they showed the game last year, and I think they got a lot of negative reception to the first trailer. So I think that they had to redo some of the aspects of the campaign that people were complaining about online. But either way, that game's coming up very soon. It looks very good. That trailer, like the lighting and the animation of Master Chief's body armor, looked fantastic. Our next news story, there is a surprise drop this week. A little company named Niantic, you might know behind a game called Pokemon Go, has re-collaborated with Nintendo to release a new game called Pikmin Bloom. Pikmin Bloom is similar to Pokemon Go, where it's a game that wants you to be outside, walking around your neighborhood. And the difference between Pokemon Go and Pikmin is that you'll be working together with your community to kind of grow a giant garden in your city or your hometown or a place that you're visiting. My initial take is that I don't think this will be anywhere as big as Pokemon Go when it comes out. I love Pikmin, but I do feel like it's a lot more niche. And from what I saw from the trailer, it doesn't really look as fun. It kind of reminds me of one of those Street Pass games from the 3DS era. I don't know. What do you guys think about this Pikmin Bloom stuff?
Have you seen anything on it, Mark?
Well, from my side, I have seen the trailer, and it does look interesting, but like Carl said, it is very niche. And I know a lot of people that still play Pokemon Go. It's come a long way over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
But it does have that enduring popularity of Pokemon, which is the biggest media franchise in the world, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure people will still play it and enjoy it. So I can see the attraction here. You said it's more of a cooperative thing than you're competing with other teams and stuff like you do in Pokemon Go. So that might be a unique twist that'll really draw some people. But I guess we'll see when it comes out. It's
I think
only available in the US at the moment, I think.
I think it came out Australia and New Zealand a few days ago, and I believe it came out in North America like 2 days ago.
Oh, okay.
So it's slowly dropping into all of the markets right now. I think one thing that Pokemon Go really had going for it was when it came out 5 years ago or whenever, they only dropped the first 150 Pokemon. And to this day, they're still adding the new Pokemon. They're still adding some of the features from the newer Pokemon games into Pokemon Go, where Pikmin doesn't really have that longevity in terms of a service. Like they're dropping it now, and there isn't really new Pikmin content to release in the future. Like they're dropping, all 6 variations of the Pikmin variety.
Is that it?
I think so. There's like red, yellow, blue, rock, fairy, and purple. I could be missing
Pikmin
some.
since the GameCube.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like if I wanted Nintendo to make another collaboration with Niantic, I'm trying to think of what I would have wanted. A Metroid game would have been hard to do.
A Metroid, AR game,
Yeah. Even like
maybe
Mario.
in places like Japan, it's going to be quite popular. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're very right, actually.
And to be fair, I do like AR games. Like I give all the popular ones a go, but I've not stuck with any. Like I have Pokemon Go. I come back to it if I go for a walk or something. Yeah. If Pikmin did do something different and if it was fun to play it, although because it's not so popular, I don't have any friends who would download Pikmin Bloom with me.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a bit harder to try and do the cooperative stuff on my end anyway.
I'm just reading a look at it at least.
Yeah, it's free. I'll download it. I'll try it. I'm just reading like a little bit of the blurb right here. The game involves going on daily walks to find seedlings, plucking Pikmin from seedlings after they grow, feeding them nectar, and collecting their petals to plant them later on. So kind of feels like you're in this cycle of walking, finding, feeding, planting, rinse and repeat. So
virtual gardening.
Yeah, we'll see how long. We'll see how long that lives up. They might update it to add more features, but I kind of think Pikmin is a weird one to go for this collaboration.
Yeah, I agree.
Is Pikmin 4 not in development? Maybe it's almost like rumored. A build up to. Yeah, I'm sure it's in development somewhere in the janitor's closet of Nintendo or something. I don't know.
I bet you somewhere in the world right now, Miyamoto is sitting cross-legged in a garden, playing with like rocks and plants, trying to figure out the idea for his next big game.
Anything is possible with that guy.
Anything's possible.
Yeah, and we'll all buy it.
We will.
Yeah, exactly. So that's Pikmin Go, or Pikmin Bloom. Oh boy. Maybe next week. Maybe I'll download it this week and play around with it a bit, so I can talk about it a bit more with an opinion next week. The last news story that we have is this week, Sony dropped a state of play, but it was third-party focused. So there was no Horizon Zero Dawn. There was no Last of Us multiplayer information. It was all third-party stuff. I'm going to go through the list of games they announced. And then if any of these stand out, we can stop down and talk about them. The first game was called Death First, Let It Die, which I believe Let It Die was a game franchise made by Suda51. I've always heard about it on podcasts and stuff, but I've never actually played Let It Die.
Me either.
That does sound like something he would come up with.
Yeah, when I was watching the trailer for this new game, it had the character design of one of his games. It looks like a battle royale kind of game. Like I said, I didn't get too much from the trailer for it. It has really cool characters, unique power-ups. I think they said it's going to be PvP as well as PvE. So we'll see how that goes. They also announced, this one's weird. Did you guys watch the trailer for this We Are OFK?
Yeah,
game?
You know what? It kind of reminded me of how when I watch trailers for like Life is Strange games, where I just don't think they trailer well. Like you can't get across why the game would be good, but yet when you play it, you're like, oh, okay, I understand. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the same vibes I was getting with We Are OFK.
I'm a big fan of these like narrative kind of branching decision kind of games, but yeah, I agree with you that they don't always work on trailers. They don't want to spoil any of the big moments, but they also have to try and advertise. I also know like this game, like this is an actual band that's releasing music as well, I believe.
Oh, is it?
I believe I think at the Game Awards last year they had like a virtual concert, and then at the end of the concert they're like, "Oh, also we're making a game."
Oh yeah, their indie pop band OFK teams up with the co-designer of Hyper Light Drifter.
Oh really?
Okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Oh, Hyper Light Drifter. That was a cool game.
That was in the description for the State of Play PlayStation blog, yeah. Which they didn't.
Guess
even
we
say
didn't
that in
read
the trailer,
that.
I don't believe.
I think in the trailer they said it was a biopic, like it's a interactive biopic, which is very strange because am I creating the path this band went on to find success? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems interesting. I'll play it for sure. I just don't know if it trailered well, and I think it'll be something that once you sit down and play it, you'll know if it's for you or not. But it does seem to have like kind of like a Night in the Woods-esque humor to it. After that one, did either of you guys play Bugsnax last year?
I did not, but it looked very cute, and some of the people in like the Discords I frequent and things like that were very excited and really enjoyed it. So I'm sure those kinds of people will be very excited about some DLC.
Yeah,
I never played it, but I watched my housemate play the entire thing, and
yeah,
it's so delightful.
it's
Especially
such a bunger.
Bunger.
So they announced a new free update. So this is not paid DLC. They're going to update this early 2022 with the Isle of Big Snacks. So I don't know if this DLC takes place before or after the end of the game. Without getting into spoilers, it makes the most sense that this takes place before the end of Bugsnax. But essentially, you and your crew of adventurers find a new island, and all the Bugsnax you find there are double to triple the size that they normally should be. So looks like you'll be solving puzzles.
Oh, wow.
You'll be playing with new items to try and shrink them down so you can catch them. Yeah, it looks cool. More Bugsnax. I'm hungry for more. So also the music in that game is fantastic, and I think they said they're adding new music from Caro Caro Bonito into the game. So that'll be very cool. For the first time in my life, I'm thinking about playing a Five Nights at Freddy's game because this new one looks kind of decent. Am I wrong, Mark?
It's like half between.
I'm kind of not sure what it's trying to do.
Has there ever been I never played, like I know about this series, obviously. How do you ignore the Five Nights at Freddy's conversation? I never played one, but this seems like the first one where you are actually exploring the place you're protecting, and it looks like almost like I don't know, it's like a light core Resident Evil Village. It's like a first-person horror game. You're stuck in this confined area. You're being stalked by 4, maybe 5 animatronics. It looks goofy and fun.
Yeah,
animatronics have a creep factor to them as well. So
definitely. Yeah, even when they're cutesy, cartoony graphics, they just look creepy.
Yeah. I think it was like, I think 2 weeks ago, I watched this dumb movie with Nicolas Cage called Willy's Wonderland.
I've not seen it yet, but it looks straight rip-off, but also amazing.
It is so dumb, and Nicolas Cage doesn't speak for the entire movie. He's a quiet protagonist.
Really?
It's so funny.
Sounds interesting.
But this game looks like the best way I could emulate that Nicolas Cage movie, so I might do it. At one point in the trailer, you see your character hopping into a giant mech suit to fight the animatronics. So I don't know. It looks kind of fun. Right after Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, a port of Death's Door is coming to console. One of the probably highest praised games of this year that I've heard of. I have not played Death's Door yet, but the fact that it's coming to PS4, PS5 will probably help me finally boot it up and start playing it.
Well, it's not often that games don't come to PlayStation, so yeah, getting some of your own back after the God of War ports and what have you. But it does look like a very good game. I haven't played it myself.
Yeah, Jessica, you haven't played Death's Door at all?
I actually only realized on this conference that it was out on Series X as well as PC, so I was an idiot because I really wanted to play it. I wanted to play it on console. So I'm glad that PlayStation mentioned it coming to PlayStation so I could play it on my Xbox.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Death's Door is like a top-down Souls-like where you play as, I believe, a crow who's trying to kind of claim the souls of people who are overdue in paying their due as it goes. But I've heard good things. I can't wait to play that. I'm not going to spend much time on this next one at all. They announced a game called Kart Rider Drift that looks like another kart riding game. I still have Mario Kart 8 on my Switch. I'm good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's so many like almost off-brand card games, but we'll just stick to what we know, I guess.
Well, Mario Kart 8
8.
has been around for a long time. They redid the Crash racing game a couple years ago, Crash Nitro Kart, I think it's
That was
called.
fun. I played that one, yeah.
They just recently announced that Final Fantasy kart racer game. So yeah, it's kind of weird. I didn't add it to the news, but there is a big rumor right now of Warner Brothers wanting to start their own Smash Bros. Clone, which, of course, Nickelodeon All Stars just came out and they had their cast.
Yeah, you know, they get made fun of all the time, but for some reason, whenever I hear about this stuff, I'm like, yeah, I'll play it. I want to see SpongeBob beat up Nigel Thornberry. I'll watch.
I want to watch Gandalf fight Harry Potter.
I really do.
I'm sure there could probably be a whole podcast on what Warner Brothers could do as a Smash Bros. Kind of knockoff.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a few weeks ago. If anybody saw NBA Jam 2, or not NBA Jam, why do I keep doing that? Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
If anybody saw Space Jam 2 and looked at the background, you got a huge roster of characters to choose from for a fighting game.
I saw the nun from the Conjuring universe in there, and
you can have the dudes from Clockwork Orange teaming up. I mean, I think it's weird that it's 2021, and right now we're seeing so many spin-offs of Nintendo's famous IPs that have been around for 30 plus years. Like right now, we're seeing a lot of kart racers. We're seeing a lot of platform fighting games. Next thing you know, we're going to see a bunch of paintball turf war games coming out soon. It's just kind of interesting. They're launching a beta for King of Fighters 15. I never played King of Fighters. I've always been more of a Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter kind of guy. Mark, do you have any history with King of Fighters?
Not a lot, but it is one of the, main fighting game series. I don't know much to say about it. I played some of the older ones before, but I wouldn't get too excited about it. But there are a lot of hardcore fans, and I'm sure there's a lot of tournaments that still go on around the world. So I'm sure a lot of people will be excited about it. I would try it out, definitely. I guess it's not, if it was on something like Game Pass, for instance, but
yeah, I know. With a year like this one where we have Guilty Gear Strive and some really good fighting games coming out, it's hard for someone or any series like King of Fighters to leave an impression at the moment. The next game they announced is actually a brand new game called First Class Trouble. If you subscribe to PS Plus, this game will be free to pick up on November 2nd, I believe. And it really feels like Among Us is leaving an impact on gaming. It's a social deduction game where one person is playing as a murderer. They're trying to kill everybody else that you're playing as. And I believe that they're trying to pin the blame on somebody else. They're trying to pass as a human. It does look like kind of a different take on the Among Us formula. Do you guys have any takes on this one?
It gives me a bit of a...
Yeah.
It gives me, if you've ever played that board game Cluedo, it gives me that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
In a way, because I see a nurse and a bunch of different characters, doing their thing. I do like this kind of thing, the social deduction. Oh, yeah, you're going to build your own costumes and things. But the Among Us style, to me, it was just a little bit too flat and simple.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was like a cult, I don't know, or a smash hit, basically, but I think there's a lot of room for this kind of game. And seeing something a bit more, I don't know, higher, well, graphically better looking. So, yeah, I'd definitely try this one out.
Yeah, the biggest difference I can see from Among Us to this is just the style of this game. Like, it's more of a third person. You're more in like 3D rendered environments and settings, trying to trick people into putting a fork into a toaster or something. I'm not sure exactly what you're doing in this game. I had a great time playing Among Us last year during a pandemic when it was kind of like the main form of communication between me and some friends. That time has kind of gone away. Like, we're not looking for reasons to hang out online as much anymore. but this game looks fun. I'll give it a shot. It's going to be free to download, like I said, if you own PS Plus. Another game I don't have a lot to say about. They also announced Star Ocean: The Divine Force. Star Ocean has been around for 25 years. And to celebrate the announcement, there's a new game coming out to PS5 and PS4 next year. I'd never played Star Ocean. When this trailer started playing, I thought they were porting like Xenoblade Chronicles to Sony for some reason, had that style to it. But yeah, no, I don't have much more to say about Star Ocean.
Well,
Yeah.
like you said, Star Ocean's been around for, well, I think the first one came out back in the 90s. So, and it's always been one of those, series that's kind of got forgotten because of games like Final Fantasy and I think, anyway.
Do they continue a story, or is it like Final Fantasy where it's a different story every one?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it might be like Star Ocean might be more of a universe, and most games are probably their own self-contained story. That's a guess on my part.
Much like...
I don't recognize a lot of the characters in this trailer. Like, I've seen trailers for Star Ocean games before, and these ones look new, or at least different than ones I've seen before. I also think Star Ocean is probably a lot more popular in like Japan and stuff than it is at least over where I am. It's probably why I don't hear a lot of people talking about Star Ocean where I live, but it could be huge for at least the Eastern audience.
Yeah, and I guess they keep making them. So
yeah, you're right.
I'd pick it up. I mean, I'd like something different. I've played, most of the Final Fantasies. I love a good JRPG. So this looks like something I'd like to try. I would like to know more about it, though.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something different from the usual. I didn't really enjoy the last Final Fantasy. The next one looks a lot better, but this might be a nice sort of stopgap between the two. So
yeah, definitely. And there wasn't a release date for this one. It could be an announcement for a game that we see in 2026 for all we know, but time will tell. There's one last game they decided to end their showcase on. It's a game I'm looking forward to called Little Devil Inside. It appears to be a little bit decisive on the internet, or divisive anyway, in terms of people don't seem to like the style. People don't really know what the game is about. But the way they've dropped these trailers, I'm hooked. I want to know more about this game. It looks like you're playing as a warrior, going to fulfill different kind of missions throughout this world. The world itself looks like little toys walking on a handmade map you may have made as a kid. They're like miniatures almost.
Yeah, a little diorama. It reminds me a bit of... I don't know if you know about Mistwalker.
I don't.
They released it. It's the original creator of Final Fantasy. He made a iOS game not so long ago called Fantasian. And he used dioramas, like physical dioramas, and then it looks very similar in style to that kind of thing. But anyway.
There's a lot happening in this trailer. At one point you're fishing. At one point you're like in this intense combat sequence in the snow. I like a game that offers a lot of ideas in one package. Maybe not so much like No More Heroes 3, where I thought it was too many variations of the same thing. But the style at least looks cohesive in that it's going to stay like the same style throughout the entire game. I think it looks really cool. Don't have much more to say until I know more about the game itself. But Little Devil Inside, I think it's coming out next year. The one game I wanted to see in this showcase that they didn't show was Stray, the one where you play as the cat.
Yeah.
That's the one I want the most information for. That's the one I want to play as soon as possible. It looks really cool, like a cyberpunk cat game. Exactly up my tree.
It feels like they pulled two names out of a hat. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it for our news segment this week. There's a lot happening. As we wind down 2021, I assume a lot more announcements will be made for 2022 releases. The Game Awards are coming up in about a month or so we'll get a ton of announcements through that. But to end off our show, it is Halloween season. At the time of recording, it's October 29th, so we're not there yet. but the panel and myself have decided to recommend 3 games to the audience that if you're going to play one game for Halloween, you should play one of these ones for sure. Jessica, this is your first week on the show. Would you want to go first with your number 3 pick?
Yeah. So I kind of put an obscure one in here. Well, maybe it is. Maybe you guys have heard of it. It's called Daymare, 1998.
Daymare.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's you might
Never heard of
probably
it.
heard of. It started as a Resident Evil 2 remake,
Oh,
a fan remake, and then obviously when
Okay.
Capcom announced theirs, they actually invited this team who was doing it over to their headquarters, and I think it was Osaka.
okay.
Basically told them, don't make that. but they did help them out, and it was like produced by the director of Resident Evil 3.
Oh, wow.
It's a really small studio. I think it's like 12 people. It's called Invader Studios, and it's trying to emulate what Resident Evil was like in the 90s. So those survival horror elements of resource management, and it's not zombies. I can't remember what they call them in this, but it's a weird virus that gets loose. It's very
Kinda.
dedicated to Resident Evil. Their whole tagline is doing horror the 90s way.
Is it
and-
is it fixed camera angles or is it a free camera?
No, actually, no fixed camera angles.
Ooh, okay.
I think there might have been a couple throughout the campaign, but no time controls either. So it wasn't a straight up like emulation of those games, but it took a lot of inspiration from it,
So
including
they
horror.
like they modernize some of those kind of older
Kind of,
things that don't hold up as well. Okay.
yeah. But then they kept like the horrible voice acting. So I think they did it on purpose. They really did. It was their whole thing for trying to be like what Resident Evil was like back then, and it follows the same sort of path. You follow 3 people's stories this time instead of like Resident Evil. It's usually 2 people's, and it's a really good survival horror game from like a smaller company. It's got issues with boss fights and stuff. They're a little janky.
Okay.
But
Does each character have their own campaign, or is it just one campaign with all 3 characters?
yeah, it cuts between them. So
Oh, cool.
one guy called Leave, he's an elite Hades soldier, which is basically their umbrella. He looks like Hunk. He's basically Hunk. He's kind of like the sort of bad guy one you're playing as. You've got a more everyman you're playing as. And then somebody else who's a pilot in Hades tells their story as you're going on. And each of their stories has kind of like a different feel. So some of them have a bit more jump scares. And then Sam's campaign, his parts are a bit more psychological, which do go genuinely creepy. Like I didn't want to walk forward during some of his bits. But I just recommend it because it's a really good Resident Evil clone. If you liked the PS1 Resident Evils.
That's really cool. And like I haven't heard of this one. It's always good to shout out games that are lesser known on the show. This looks really cool, and I love those old Resident Evils. I sometimes have a hard time going back to Resident Evil 1 specifically because of fixed camera angles, and until they make a modern version of it that like a Resident Evil 2 or 3 remake, this is like maybe a better game to go back to if I don't feel like dealing with number 1. Do you have any idea how long the game is?
I think I played it last year. I think it's like 12 hours, 15 maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. Does it have any FMV, like real life action or real life actors at the beginning, like Resident Evil 1?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. That's the best part of the game.
It was certainly iconic, yeah.
Yeah. All right, Mark, what is your number 3 pick for games to play on Halloween?
Well, this one, I don't know if it's available on current platforms, but I had to go back a little bit and I thought about Alice Madness Returns, which I don't know if either of you have played it. I'm sure at least one of you have. But it's, of course, based on Alice in Wonderland, but it's quite... If I had to kind of paraphrase or like connect it to something, it gives me almost like a Nightmare Before Christmas kind of vibe, where it's a bit twisted and creepy, but still yeah, great platforming action, and it's just quite like a twisted take on, a very popular fairy tale, and just yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I remember seeing that game in stores, and I remember being like, "Is this an Alice in Wonderland game with an M rating on it?" Like, it's kind of jarring seeing the reading the back, and it's like, "Oh no, it's got gore, it's got like alcohol abuse, it has all these things."
Yeah,
Well,
I played it a year ago again. I played about halfway through it again because it's also on Game Pass if you've got the Ultimate.
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, on EA Play. Um, and it just held up really well for being a game that came out like 15 years ago on the 360, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think it could do with a remaster by now, because it was a while ago.
I think I'd read that because it was developed by what's his name? Is it American McGee?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I read something where he was pitching an idea for a sequel a year or so ago, but I don't know if anybody picked him up on that idea or not.
I think it might be one of those things where he's been trying to get it made for a while. I'm not sure about all that though. But I agree, Mark. I think it's a very good game.
And does it play like in Alice in Wonderland, like narratively, or does it like start with the girl falling down the rabbit hole and then it kind of becomes its own thing?
I think in the beginning, before you go into the rabbit hole or through the looking glass, I can't remember exactly how it happens, but it's just messed up. You're like, I think in Victorian England or something, and I don't remember exactly how it starts, but it's just not what you would think, Alice in Wonderland would be. It's quite dark right from the start, if I remember correctly.
Like the original story, like not the Disney animated movie, but like it's a very dark story in general.
It
like
is.
It's nice to get like a kind of a darker take on a kid's book that is already pretty dark in general.
Yeah, so maybe it is a bit closer to the true story than say the movies.
Yeah, very cool. I'm going to start with a baby game, and then I'm going to ramp up to something a little bit more scarier. Not a baby game. I'm not going to say a baby game. My number 3 pick is Luigi's Mansion.
You know what? I was thinking of Luigi's Mansion.
Well, it's
That's a great game for Halloween.
It's not the scariest game on the planet. It's not going to make you like look through your eyes or through your fingers through the screen. It is a game with ghosts in a haunted mansion, and it is just a fantastic one. And I'm recommending the first game. It's hard to find and play these days, so if you can, I'd say go buy the third game in the series, which is also very fun. You play as Luigi, who has mysteriously won a mansion through a random like a raffle or something, and he shows up and it's haunted by booze and ghosts and really, really clever boss fights as well. And using the power of a vacuum cleaner, it is up to you to suck up all the ghosts and kind of purify the house. It's also, the first game is a short game. It's like 5 hours. You can beat it in one sitting. I just always look fondly on the music of the game. The humor of the game is really good. Luigi saying Mario, like looking for his brother, is really good. It's just like it's the perfect Halloween game for maybe if you have kids at home and you don't want to be playing any of the scary games like Visage or Daymare in front of them. It's a good family horror game. I recommend checking it out. Like I said, the third game is fantastic, and it does a lot of what I love about the first game. So everyone play Luigi's Mansion. I really recommend it. Yeah. It's a fun time. It's light on the scares, high on the entertainment.
Just so
as well.
Yes. What was that? Sorry, Jessica?
I agree with the music. I still listen to the music sometimes. It's
ba-da-ba-ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Like I hum it down the street as I'm like going to buy some penny candies. All right, Jessica, what was your number 2 pick?
My number 2 pick, I was actually playing it today, is Dead Space. It's just one of my favorite games of all time, let alone a horror game. The first one, yeah. I forgot how really scary it was until I was playing it today. It's I'm sure everyone knows what it is, but it's a third-person survival horror set in space. You play a miner who goes onto a ship with some people, and then things go horribly wrong. There's things called, I think they're called necromorphs. really horrible monsters, but they have great design. And the combat's it was really unique at the time. I remember. I can't really think of a lot of things that do it where you had to take their limbs off instead of just shooting at the monsters. So you had to strategize and resource management. But the thing I love about it the most is a bit of a weird thing I love about it the most, but it's the sound design.
Oh, cool.
If you play it with headphones, like because you're on a ship, if you go into like a big engine room, you can really hear it. Like it is so loud. Sometimes you don't hear the necromorphs sneaking up on you and you get a horrible fright. And then just today I was playing it and I was in an elevator and thought, oh, I'm safe. I'm in an elevator, took a sip of tea, and then the elevator doors opened and the necromorph came for me.
Oh man.
It's just fantastic. It's so scary and it's tense as well as scary. Like I feel like you never get like a moment's rest in that game.
Would you say it's very claustrophobic, Dead Space, compared to Resident Evil, which has more open areas like the police station in 2, or even like when you're outside in 7? Whenever I haven't played Dead Space, but whenever I see clips of it, you're always in a tight hallway or you're in a small room with no lights on inside. Is that accurate?
You do get small, like I guess puzzle moments where you're in bigger areas, but yeah, you're right. By and large, it's you go down a corridor and you're like, right, well, there's probably going to be a monster coming from here then. And then that's exactly what it is, but somehow manages to scare you every time.
So you are pretty hyped for the remake, I imagine?
Yeah, although I will play it, obviously, but I actually do think just the original one holds up just so well today. Even in the graphics, like they obviously look dated, but just the way they use lighting and everything. I am excited for the remake, but this one still holds up well if anyone wants to play it. And it is also on Game Pass if you have the Ultimate with EA Play.
Oh, perfect. I was going to say something about Dead Space 3. Do you like that one as well, or did you kind of like lose interest in the series as it went on?
I actually never played Dead Space 3,
okay.
So I can't comment on that one, although I did hear it went like no horror.
Off the rails?
Yeah, full action.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. That's why I was curious. Awesome, Dead Space. Mark, what is your number 2 pick for scary games?
Okay, well, this is going to be, I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, I'm going to go with Doki Doki Literature Club.
Okay.
If you have not played, it's, well, yeah, probably everyone's played it by now, and I don't think I ever want to play it again, but it starts out as that cutesy little anime, almost dating sim, which the game does warn you. It does warn you, but so you know it's coming, you just don't know when, and you get into this game and you play the little word puzzles, get to know the characters. Oh, wow, this one's cute. You start like, wow, picking your favorite, and then it's just, bam, it just gets all creepy and weird. And then when you think it's over, it really isn't. The second playthrough gets even worse. And, you just think, what the hell's going on? And it gets so meta. It gets so self-aware with the characters. I'm sure you guys have something to say about it as well.
I have not played Doki Doki. I just picked up the physical version that came out this year. I got it for PS5.
Really?
And then I found out that playing it on console may not be the best way of playing this game. I haven't been spoiled on a lot of it, but I know it does some things on the computer specifically that kind of ties into the horror elements of the game. So I had this PS5 version of the game sitting on the shelf, ready to go any day now. But I'm kind of considering maybe buying it on PC despite just buying this PS5 version. But
well, I actually think it's free
to
on
play, isn't it?
Free on Steam.
Yeah,
if you wanted to give it a go there first. But
yeah,
playing both.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
it's free still.
Mm-hmm. It's just the plus. I think it has more side stories and stuff to do with the club.
Yeah, and the physical version came with like little cutouts of the characters and the soundtrack and just like a bunch of like neat little collectibles that I don't know what they are because I haven't played the game yet. But Jessica, have you played it?
Yeah, I love it. Actually, it was one of those games when it released that surprised me because everyone was like, go in, don't know anything about it. And I agree with Mark, do that. It's so nice to begin with. You're like, oh no, something horrible's going to happen.
Yeah.
And when it does,
you're waiting.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh no, they weren't joking.
It goes like Mark said, really meta. It has really dark moments, but then just really creepy, scary moments as well. And it's free, the normal version. I think it's a really good pick for Halloween.
Yeah, the only clips I've seen have been like the first half of the game or whatever, where it's like you're in a classroom and you're having a fun like visual novel experience with some girls in school. That's all I know about Doki Doki. But the PS5
Just keep it
version
that way until you
yeah.
play it.
Yeah, just
Well,
stop there.
The back of the box has a huge warning being like, just so you know, this is misleading on purpose. Like this game will terrify you.
Oh, I love it.
So I'm gonna play it soon. It's sitting by my TV ready to play. I was torn about console versus PC, but if I know it's free on Steam, then I can just do it that way.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
And I will say, with the bit you're talking about on consoles, they emulate it pretty well on console version.
Yeah, because I'm at a point where I don't even want to look it up on like Reddit or anything. I'm afraid I'm going to read the wrong thing, and that experience will be taken away from me.
Yeah.
So I'll decide probably on Halloween day. I might play that game actually.
I don't think it's a long game either. So yeah, maybe you can squeeze it in some way.
You mentioned multiple playthroughs, which I don't think I knew that there's multiple playthroughs in the game. So
That's
yeah, we'll see.
Part of the
Part of the charm. So my number 2 game is not a baby game. I'm going to escalate from Luigi's Mansion up to a little game that I look back on my time with very fondly. I recommend it to anybody who enjoys scary games, either with themselves or maybe even co-op. And that's going to be Until Dawn. Until Dawn by, is it Supermassive Games? I think that's what they're called. So this was their first kind of, they're currently doing the Dark Picture Anthology games. They just dropped House of Ashes, I believe, this week. Until Dawn was their first kind of choose your own adventure horror experience. And it takes on the trope of a bunch of young or late high school kids, young college kids going up to a cabin in the woods. And then, as they do, they get hot and heavy for each other. They go off by themselves when you should never do that. And then bad stuff starts happening. But what I really like about this game is the cast, first of all. If you're a fan of the show Heroes, it's got Hayden Panettiere from it. Or if you're a big Bohemian Rhapsody 007 fan, Rami Malek is in the game as well. But I also just like the weight of the decisions you make in the game. Early on, there'll be small things, and the whole game uses a butterfly effect system. So one small action will change the course of history. Early on, you're having a snowball fight, and one of the guys is like, "Hey, bro, I bet you can hit the squirrel with a snowball," and you can tell him yes or no, and even that small thing will have a butterfly effect on the rest of the game. Until Dawn is also, I said it earlier, but it's also a good co-op game. When I first played this, I played it with my partner, and she was helping me make decisions while I was doing it. But they have actually added a mode in recently where you can pass the controller between you and someone else while you're playing it. So, for example, I'll play as 3 characters, somebody else can play as 3 characters, and then we're making those decisions for them as we go along.
That's cool. I didn't know they added that. That is
so you are playing as more than one character as you play through the story.
I think there's 6 quote unquote protagonists, because some of these kids are pretty unlikable.
One in particular, if I remember correctly.
I'd say like 2 or 3 in particular. But it's a really good story. It has so many different horror elements in it, from Ouija boards to old mine shafts to slideshows that show scary images. Like, if you think of a trope, it's in this game somewhere. It is both scary and funny and fun to play, most of all. It came out like 5 years ago, so I feel like you can get it for pretty cheap these days. If you haven't played Until Dawn, I'd say watch a trailer, check it out. If you're a fan of movies like Scream or even like Halloween, where you get to watch a bunch of kids kind of die, get Until Dawn. That will also do that for you.
Sounds like good fun. So
yeah. It's like a corny horror. Like, it knows what it is. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Actually, I love those.
Yeah. Almost like Cabin in the Woods. If you watch that movie.
Yeah. It knows what it is.
It knows what it is.
Self-aware.
Jessica, what is your number one? I'm curious. What is your number one pick for scary games?
So number one pick. Be good. I'm gonna guess. Maybe someone's picked this one, but sorry, I'm going first. It is Resident Evil 7.
Yep.
You did. Oh, okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got something different.
Yay.
All right.
Sorry, but it is. It's just one of those games where just every time I go out and play it, I've probably played it about 7 times since it came out. It's still scary every time to me.
Yeah.
I think I know it. I think I know the layout of it, and then I'll walk around a corner and there's Marguerite, and I'll just scream. And also with that fact that you can play it all in VR, which is terrifying.
That's crazy.
Have you played in VR or have you played outside VR?
I played both, but I never completed it in VR, but only because it was my first time playing and I got stuck on one of the bosses. I can't remember what it was, but
Yeah.
I'll always remember it's at the very beginning of the game and someone's crawling up the stairs after you, and I can hear her with the headphones on. I'm just like, please don't turn around, don't turn around.
In that moment, you're at the top of a staircase and you can't see all the way down the stairs. All you can hear is like a bit of breathing happening. And of course, the game wants you to walk down the stairs to trigger the event from happening. So Resident Evil 7 is also my number one. So I'm also just going to talk about it freely here. I played for the VR for the first 4 hours of that game, and then I just tapped out.
Understandable.
I was getting chased by monsters. I was doing boss fights. I was getting overwhelmed. At one point, I was just curled up in a ball on the floor because I didn't know what to do with a VR headset on my face. So it is effectively scary. And I think Res 7 took a lot of what PT did back in the day and turned it into maybe the game that PT was never destined to be. It does a lot of great psychological horror when you're, in a hallway. Things are changing on you all the time. I'm trying to think of what else. The boss fights are fantastic and very extra and very fun. And the soundtrack as well is very daunting.
Yeah, I actually love the Southern Gothic music you've got going on, and the intro, and then the save room theme. I felt like it kind of did what Resident Evil did best. It reinvented itself, but it kept it scary.
Yeah, especially after they had made Resident Evil 5 and 6, which were more action-focused games.
Mm-hmm.
For them to go back to true, terrifying horror in this way, where you are going down a hallway and then a body drops from the ceiling in front of you. And like you were saying too, Jessica, the environment is, I think it takes place in Louisiana, which is very swampy. It's very run down. It's such a cool location for that game as well.
And the villains, I think, hearing Jack shouting Ethan. I just always remember it, and Marguerite's just so gross, but really memorable. And Lucas, the brother, just pure psychopath. I think they're so memorable.
Yeah, and Lucas specifically, his section of the game is essentially a giant escape room that you have to kind of do. It's almost like Saw in a way too, where he puts you in a room. He says, "Hey man, you have 40 minutes before something awful happens to you. Solve this puzzle and find your way out."
Bye.
And yeah, it's very scary. There's a weird choice near the end of the game that doesn't really matter. I don't like when they make you make a choice between two people to save at the end.
Yeah, it was really out of place. I'm like, obviously you're going to pick one.
Yeah.
The other.
And I think Resident Evil 7 does a good job too of setting up the events of Resident Evil 8, which is not on my list. I really like that game, but if I'm recommending,
I was about to ask about that.
Yeah, if I'm recommending a scary game for Halloween, Res 7 takes Village every day.
Yeah.
Because while Village has some horror elements to it, it's not the pure scary experience that 7 offers. But yeah, like Jessica was saying, the bosses, the environment, everything about that game comes together so well to create a game that I would often have to talk myself up for 2 days just to boot up.
I don't know if I could play that in VR personally.
Mm-hmm.
It's so scary. Like horror games, they do scare me. But VR just takes it to a whole new level, and they're very good the way they've designed it with it as well. And
it plays differently in VR as well, where you can look around corners better with the VR headset that you can't do with just a controller.
Oh, just like a peek. Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty neat. Mark, what's your number one pick?
Okay, well, I'm going to go. I could use this opportunity to plug my review, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, it might not be a horror per se, but I was going to go with Control.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a very much, well, yeah, supernatural in nature, and a lot of it, I did find it at some like to be very unsettling in some parts. So yeah, I mean, just the action and everything is great, but the lore and everything surrounding it. There's also the Alan Wake expansion, which wasn't my favorite, but I just found all the supernatural goings on and things. You know, it might not be a horror game per se. Like I said, it's
Well, I think that Alan Wake expansion, I played it. That was earlier this year. It came out January, maybe. I remember playing that, and I remember thinking it was pretty spooky because Alan Wake does not look like a humanoid in that game, or if I remember correctly, you're kind of seeing this long-legged thing in corners and rooms, and you don't really know what it is until you have to start fighting it. Which I think even like the confrontation with that monster is pretty terrifying itself.
It is. That particular part was very much survival horror, very much, Alan Wake. But I found it a bit tedious personally, but
yeah, it gives me a real like cosmic horror vibe. Control, like everything's just so big and, like you say, overwhelming, and it does strange things. It is kind of like a quirky pick for a Halloween one, but it is a fantastic game.
Like more Lovecraftian kind of horror. Almost like you just don't understand what's going on, but it's
like
happening.
Almost it's very like Kafka-esque, or even like David Lynchian in a way, where like Twin Peaks or like Blue Velvet, where weird stuff is happening, nobody is questioning it for some reason, it's just happening. And you know, the further into the nightmare you get, the scarier it almost becomes as well. I remember like the first hour of Control is kind of normal. You're a normal girl walking into this building looking for your brother, I think is the mission. And then obviously the deeper into the building you get, the more you start to find out strange things are afoot in the Bureau.
Oh yeah, Federal Bureau?
No. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh god, what
Federal
is it?
Bureau of Control. Federal Bureau
Yeah,
of
actually,
Control.
maybe. But I remember playing with the headphones as well. I think it's called the Hiss, the enemies.
Yeah.
Just whispering constantly as you're playing.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Very unsettling.
As well as like the board. Like the board is like the main voice that talks to you, and it talks in like it like talks backwards. It's very weird. But in a cool way. Yeah, Control is a fantastic pick. Obviously there's so many other games that we could recommend here. Do either of you guys have like an honorable mention or anything you want to shout out there? Something that almost made your list?
I was thinking of Alan Wake, but I guess that's covered in Control as well. It's another one where I think it's not too scary. It just gives you nice, dark, creepy vibes.
Yeah, the one that almost made my list, I do want to shout out the Little Nightmare games, because they don't get a lot of talk, and they made it number 2 this year, and that game is, I think, fairly underrated. They're 2D platforming games, but they do a lot of like cool body horror and psychological horror elements throughout that I recommend people check out. And both games, Little Nightmares 1 and 2, are about 4 to 5 hours to beat each, so they don't take up a huge amount of your time. Pretty short to get through.
Okay, on my side, I was thinking about Doom 3, actually. Not one of the most fondly remembered Doom games, but it was very much survival horror and just a demonic alien kind of mashup. I kind of think that Dead Space did what, Doom kind of set out to do a lot better than it did, but I've got fond memories of that game, and there's some really good scares, some very weird stuff going on. So yeah, it's my honorable mention.
I don't think I've played it. It sounds very cool, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Right up your alley, I think, if you're to Dead Space and that kind of thing. It's like really weird upside down baby head spider things, and just good jump scares. Yeah.
It sounds like stuff you'd find in Sid's room from Toy Story 1. Just like
kind of, yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah. Is it on Game Pass with the Bethesda? No, it's not Bethesda. They've got the license for
it
the
might
new
be.
ones, is it?
It might be.
I think
I can't remember which ones got added.
Yeah, I think it is. I could be wrong. I think Mark's looking it up right now.
If it was on Game Pass, I'd definitely play it.
I don't It could be. I think it is actually.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when they acquired Bethesda, they put up all the Quakes, they put up Doom, they put up
think it is.
Wolfenstein. Yeah.
Skyrim's on there, isn't it? And
Yeah,
all
Skyrim.
the other games. Yeah, it's
even
on
like,
there. Have a look. I think
even like Fallout 1, Fallout 2, they put everything there. But you heard it here first, folks. Those are the scariest games ever made. Our list is the definitive list of scary games to play for Halloween. I want to thank you guys both for joining me this week, Jessica and Mark. It was a great show. We highlighted, I just want to talk about what we talked about. Games like Guardians of the Galaxy, Kena Bridge of Spirits, Fatal Frame, Visage, all the biggest news stories. Next week, we will be back again. I think we'll be talking about the games from 2021 we're still looking forward to. The year's almost coming to a close. Game of the Year lists are starting to be made, but there's still some games coming out. So if you haven't already, please go to KeenGamer.com where you can check out our great reviews, opinion pieces. Jessica, do you have any plugs or anything you want to mention before we close out?
Just if anybody was in the mood for some scary movies that are recently releasing, there's a list of horror movies that came out in October and also for November as well that I've done if people want to check that out on KeenGamer.
Yeah, those are always great lists. Mark, do you have anything you want to plug?
Well, I guess I'm just going to plug my Fatal Frame review. Go check it out. It's an excellent game, and I think, right in the spirit of things for if you're looking for something to play this weekend.
Absolutely. Well, I hope everyone out there has a spooky and safe Halloween. We will be back next week for some more talking about games. And that is the end of the show. Have a good day, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.